You're watching the Daily Climate Show on Sky News. On today's programme, as Europe records what could be its highest ever temperature, we ask how cities are adapting to the new reality. Nicola Sturgeon urges the government to reassess plans for a new oil field in Shetland ahead of COP26. And find out how artificial rocks are being used to protect Mexico's coastline. Hello and welcome to the UK's only daily climate news show. Record temperatures are being broken across the world, with Europe potentially recording its hottest ever day. It comes as severe heat waves intensify across much of southern Europe and North Africa, where we've witnessed so many wildfires in recent weeks. It's expected the heat will impact Spain and Portugal next. Authorities across the Mediterranean are warning people living there to take extra precautions, with temperatures expected to stay above 40 degrees. And you can see on this map just how high global temperatures are, with most of North America and large parts of Europe sweltering under intense heat. Heat waves are a natural part of the climate system. However, human-induced global warming is making them stronger and more frequent. So, what does that mean for actual temperatures? Well, Syracuse in Sicily reported temperatures of 48.8 degrees Celsius yesterday, which, if confirmed by the World Meteorological Organization, would beat the previous European high of 48 degrees Celsius recorded in Athens in 1977. And those temperatures were close to being matched again as Greece suffered its worst heat waves in 30 years. Temperatures there have peaked at 46.3 degrees. On Tuesday, the Tunisian capital Tunis hit a record temperature of 49 degrees, breaking a 29-year record. So, what's going on? Well, the latest heat wave in Europe is being caused by an anticyclone moving up from Africa. An anticyclone is a high-pressure system which builds up over an area. As it builds up, it causes hot air to sink, and that sinking acts as a heat dome, trapping hot air underneath it. It can stay there for days or even weeks. Sally Lockwood is in Athens and sent this report.
The intense heat dome from the Sahara is wreaking havoc across North Africa and now Europe. As it moved northwards into Italy, temperatures rose to dangerous new highs. The island of Sicily, already in a state of emergency, has recorded Europe's hottest ever temperature of nearly 49 degrees Celsius. Greece, still battling some of the worst wildfires in its history, is now braced for more destruction, amid fears the heat dome will head this way.
The fires came within a few miles of Athens. While they've been brought under control, officials can do nothing about the temperature in the city. Heat stress is impacting people's health, their ability to go about their lives, and many of those things that we rely on to cool us down, like air conditioning, exacerbate climate change.
The images we saw in all the international media will, I hope, be a wake-up call for the global community, in that here there is something happening that will lead us to absolute destruction.
And flooding now in Turkey has destroyed buildings and claimed lives. The heat wave caused deadly wildfires and now deadly deluge. It's a domino effect.
When the air heats up, it holds more water can be evaporated, so that increases drought. But of course, that water has to go somewhere, and that increases the heavy rain events as well.
Many are worried flooding and landslides will follow in Greece too. Just one of many countries feeling the relentless impact of climate change. Sally Lockwood, Sky News, Athens.
Well, earlier I spoke to Eleni Mirivilli, Athens' first chief heat officer and only the second in the world. I asked her why the city needs one.
The heat chief officers started as a collaboration between two cities. First was Miami-Dade, and then it was Athens with the Ars Rockefeller Resilience Center. And we put together the Extreme Heat Resilience Alliance, and we are preparing cities to help the most vulnerable populations mostly to handle heat, to protect them from extreme heat. So why is Athens a city that is in the forefront of all this? Athens is the hottest capital of Europe. And we know that the Eastern Mediterranean is projected to have a 2 degrees increase, 2 degrees Celsius increase until the middle of the century. So we really have to prepare for it.
So what can be done to help protect the city and its people from extreme heat?
One of the main things that we have to do is we have to raise awareness. And maybe one of the good things that has come out of all these wildfires and the very extreme temperatures of this year is that people have it more clear in their consciousness that this is a very serious threat for our well-being and for the well-being of our people and the cities where they live in. So one very important thing is raising awareness. The second very important thing is to getting the politicians to be brave about the different policies and decision making that they take from this point onward. It has to be a much more horizontal approach to policies that so that all types of policy making has the concept of being resilient to heat. The next thing, of course, is bringing nature into cities and making sure that the nature that we have the type of trees and we bring the water to the surfaces and we make cities much more much greener, because this is what really brings temperatures down.
And you can see more on this on our website, including how to survive a heat wave. Head to skynews.com/climate. In today's other climate news, a once-in-a-century drought has lowered the water level of a river that's vital for exports in Argentina. Nearly 80% of the country's farm exports are loaded at Parana River, but its source in southern Brazil has been hit by drought for 3 years. A 25% reduction in livestock feed exports has been predicted, affecting farms across Europe and Southeast Asia, while hitting the Argentinian economy. A study by the Environmental Protection Agency has found that increased rainfall due to climate change will affect parts of Ireland in different ways. Analysis of the flow of Irish waterways shows that increased rainfall is causing rivers in the west to get heavier, bringing with it the increased threat of flooding. And rising temperatures will cause rivers in the east to dry out, increasing droughts. And a survey by the Local Government Association has found that 94% of residents want to see increased biodiversity in their area. The LGA found that people want more tree planting and for green spaces to be protected. But the group has warned a skills shortage could be a barrier to councils increasing biodiversity, as only 1/3 of planning authorities in England have ecologists. Scotland's First Minister is urging the UK government to reassess plans for a new oil field near Shetland, following pressure from campaigners. Nicola Sturgeon has written to the Prime Minister saying he should reconsider drilling licences for the waters around Shetland, where the Cambo development is due to be built. Well, let's speak to our political correspondent, Joe Pike. So, Joe, remind us why this oil field is controversial and what's the response been?
It's controversial, Anna, because environmental campaigners estimate that if it goes ahead, we will see 132 million tonnes of CO2 release. But it is slightly more complicated than just stopping it, because the original licence to explore the site was given 20 years ago. They're now looking for the final go-ahead. Boris Johnson was in Scotland last week, in the northeast of Scotland, in fact, and indicated he didn't want to block it going ahead, saying, quote, "We can't just rip up contracts." In contrast, Labour are against it, want to stop it completely, whereas Nicola Sturgeon, this is taking place in Scotland, she is, of course, the First Minister of that country. Today she's written to Boris Johnson, as you say, but merely saying that he should reassess that licence and licences in similar situations. Now, some accuse her of fence-sitting. Certainly Greenpeace are unhappy, saying she's deferring to the Prime Minister. This is a PR exercise. But others in the oil and gas industry in Scotland point out that it employs huge numbers of people, that hydrocarbons are going to be necessary in the coming decades. And if you don't produce it here and employ people in Scotland, it will mean importing it from other countries and their economies benefiting, not ours. Meanwhile, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has been talking about the environment and balancing the health of the planet and the health of the UK economy. This is what he told Sky News earlier.
Look at our track record over the past couple of decades. We've grown the economy 75%, and at the same time we've cut carbon emissions by almost half. So that shows it's possible to do both things. We can become more prosperous as a country, more jobs, more successful businesses, more money in our pockets, whilst also becoming greener, and that's what we need to do going forward as well.
Certainly, though, Anna, this letter from Nicola Sturgeon to Boris Johnson asking him to reassess the decision on Cambo does pile more pressure on him, especially in advance of that COP26 climate conference in Glasgow. Certainly that event has meant there is far more scrutiny on our political leaders when they make these sorts of decisions.
Joe, thank you. Well, we've heard a lot about the challenges of tackling climate change. So let's hear now from people coming up with smart solutions. A team of British engineers are growing artificial rocks in the Gulf of Mexico to slow down the effects of coastal erosion. Let's see how.
It's estimated that around 70% of our coastlines are experiencing increased erosion. We start with a steel structure that we put into the seafloor. We then pass a very small electrical current between what we call an anode and the cathode, and the structure itself is the cathode. The rock starts to grow immediately. We can actually build a structure that has sufficient mass and complexity to dampen the waves that are passing over it and through it. You know, obviously we're seeing the rock growth that we want. It's also quite exciting to see the fish coming in and actually using the structure. So we're hoping that these new structures can actually become although they're artificial, a very natural habitat for marine life. For example, sea squid. Our long-term hope is that we can make these structures suitable so that the corals will actually attach onto them.
And finally, a company has discovered that the geothermal waters in Cornwall have the highest concentration of lithium in the world. Geothermal engineering say they can extract 4,000 tonnes of lithium each year by 2026. The demand for lithium, essential for batteries, is expected to grow in the UK as more electric cars are produced. And that's everything from us for today. Next time, meet the woman on a mission to protect forests in Paraguay. You can see that tomorrow on The Daily Climate Show. See you then.